The Athletic with some fresh reporting on the Ben Simmons front. Will he get dealt prior to the February 10th NBA trade deadline? Daryl Morey continues to be obsessed with the idea of bringing James Harden to the city of brotherly love, and which teams are entering the fray if Simmons gets dealt. But first, this is why you subscribe to the fastest growing 76ers channel on YouTube, because we keep you up to date with all things Sixers in a very fresh, informative, entertaining way. And we're all about the audience interaction. So if you want more Sixers content, the solution to that is very easy. Hit that red subscribe button down below, and let's talk some Sixers right now. All right, welcome in. You're watching Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I am your Philly guy, Chase Sr. Hope all of your weeks are off to a good start. Daryl Morey, is he holding off on making a Ben Simmons trade until the summer? Let's run through all of the recent reporting from Shams Charania and Sam Amick of The Athletic. They said that rival teams believe that Daryl Morey, head of basketball operations for Philadelphia, is probably going to hold off on trading Ben Simmons for James Harden, not leading up to the NBA trade deadline, but over the NBA offseason this summer. The Kings and Hawks, though, two teams who have been engaged the most in the Ben Simmons sweepstakes, and a new team has entered the fray as a possible contending team to deal for Ben Simmons. That is the Charlotte Hornets, who are really in the mix in the Eastern Conference, along with the Philadelphia 76ers. And when you take a look at the Eastern Conference standings, all of these teams are so stacked closely on top of one another. The Sixers right now in the 6th seed in the East, but only 3 games out of the win column from the number 1 seed behind the Miami Heat. So it's really going to be riveting coming down the stretch here during the NBA season, especially in the Eastern Conference, to see how things shake out in the Eastern Conference playoff hunt. Here's the reporting from The Athletic, and we'll run through all of this, including the latest on James Harden. For Simmons, the 76ers have asked the Kings for guard Tyrese Halliburton and multiple first-round picks, and asked for a package around John Collins and multiple first-round picks from the Hawks, along with Atlanta taking on Tobias Harris, multiple sources tell The Athletic. That's why Daryl Morey's asking price hasn't been met by other organizations. The Athletic reported last Wednesday that the Kings do not plan to move De'Aaron Fox or Halliburton and want to build around them instead. Over the past 7 months, the 76ers have discussed deals around players like Fox, Indiana's Domantas Sabonis, and Toronto's Pascal Siakam. But organizationally, they have felt that those players were not championship-altering or perfect fits on this current roster. The Sixers do believe in Tyrese Maxey's long-term ability at point guard and have Harris as their starting power forward and Joel Embiid manning the center position. Now, this is kind of where I've always been on the Ben Simmons trade discussion, especially considering how Joel Embiid has played over the last month and a half. I think this year it's been the best of his career. Yes, better than last year when he finished MVP runner-up behind Nikola Jokic. I mean, he's been fantastic, Embiid has, and he's really been jockeying with the Joker as the best big man in the league, and I think Embiid has separated himself from Jokic this year. But wasting this year of Embiid's prime really does bother me, because last year they blew and squandered a terrific opportunity to make their first real run at an NBA championship since 2001. I think if they get past the Atlanta Hawks in that second round, which they choked down the stretch, we already know about it, it's very well documented, I think they contend very well against the Milwaukee Bucks, and then they get into the NBA Finals, let's say, and I think they match up well against the Phoenix Suns. And it was a year where everything kind of fell in line for Philadelphia. The Nets suffered those injuries, and a path to the NBA Finals was totally there for Philly. They blew it. And now, the season after that, they don't have Ben Simmons, and they have a nice roster right now. And look, they're 3 games out of the win column from the number 1 seed. Honestly, it's impressive that they're this good up to this point, considering everything that's transpired with all of the Simmons drama with 2-5, all of the COVID issues, Embiid hurt with COVID earlier on in the year, but wasting this magical year for Embiid, which has really catapulted him once again into the MVP conversation, really just bothers me and rubs me the wrong way, because we're not sure how long he is going to play at this elite level. So I want Philly right now, the city of brotherly love, my hometown, to sound off in the comment section and give me your reaction. If the Sixers do not trade Big Baby Ben leading up to the NBA trade deadline, Fill in the blank. I'm going to go back and see what you all come up with. I'm fascinated to see where the Sixers fans are at. 76ers Now is presented to you by our sportsbook partner, BetUS. All year they've been offering this astounding and profound 125% deposit bonus. I love gambling on sports. In a responsible way, of course, NFL, NBA, whatever, and you can too, and get a good deal in the process. Plug in that link down below, chatsports.com/bet, and that promo code to my right, chat125, for a 125% deposit bonus. Let's say you put in $100 into your account, automatically by using that link in that promo code, you get an additional $125 back. I talked about Joel Embiid climbing the ladder in the MVP conversation. These are the new updated NBA MVP odds. Steph Curry, even though his game has fallen off, still the leader in the clubhouse right now at 2-1 odds, followed by Giannis, Nikola Jokic at plus 550, and Joel Embiid at plus 650. Kind of good value if you like Joel MVP bead to win the MVP. Head to chatsports.com/bet, enter the promo code at chat125. Now we shift to the continued fascination for Daryl Morey with James Harden. Still wants to bring him to Philadelphia, but he wants to do so during the offseason because, look, the Nets are competing for an NBA championship, and there's no way that Brooklyn would send away Harden at the NBA trade deadline, especially with Kevin Durant out right now because of a knee injury. So The Athletic continuing the conversation of Morey just having the heart emojis covered over his eyes when he watches Harden. He's just infatuated by him. He traded for him when he was with Houston, and Harden became an MVP caliber player. Morey still has optimism that he can finally find a way to bring Harden his way. More specifically, he believes that the 9-time All-Star and 2018 MVP sees the Sixers situation in a positive light. And while it may be counterintuitive because Embiid's having this MVP caliber season, it's inspired more patience among Sixers officials to make the right deal than it has pressure to get something done by the deadline. Now, I look at this and I'm like, why would the Brooklyn Nets want Ben Simmons on the roster if they decide to trade away James Harden after this year? Now, James Harden did not sign that long-term contract extension with Brooklyn during the offseason. There have been some rumblings about him wanting to go to another team. We know that James Harden is a fantastic offensive player. There's been some signs of regression, but does he still see himself in a light where he can lead a franchise to the promised land for the first time in his career, and does he not have to do so alongside Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving? I think a lot of this is going to be predicated on the success or lack thereof that Brooklyn has this year. And let's say they win an NBA title. Let's say they flame out in the playoffs. Maybe James Harden will want to ask out. And if he asks out, maybe that will force Brooklyn's hand to trade him away, and maybe Ben Simmons would fit on that roster nicely because he doesn't have to shoot the ball when he's playing alongside Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Now, Bill Simmons said this, and I wanted to pass it along because I think he made some good points, and I know a lot of people watching are saying, he's a Boston homer. He's just going to try to rip Philadelphia any opportunity he has. But look, I mean, the guy knows NBA basketball, and he is the podfather after all. So Bill Simmons said this: the Ben Simmons reports are becoming more and more ludicrous. Oh, Brooklyn is going to be leaping at the chance to trade Harden for him this summer? Give me a break. You float pie-in-the-sky stuff when you have no leverage, and Philly has no leverage. He's legit damaged as a trade asset, and he kind of is because of how he's handled this situation and how he played against the Atlanta Hawks in that second-round flameout. Simmons continued on Twitter by saying this, and cap implications, of course, and the salary cap nerds, look, you can always find a way to finagle the cap and do salary cap gymnastics, but Simmons did say this: Philly's cap is over $150 million next year, not counting picks and minimum contracts. It's impossible for them to sign Harden. Brooklyn would have to say, cool, we'd love to help, division rival, and we'll make ourselves way worse with the guy who melted down a year ago, then wouldn't play this year. Now, it would have to be a sign-and trade for this to work financially. And as I mentioned, salary cap maneuvering can always be done in all professional sports. NBA, of course, is a salary cap league. Now, with James Harden, I think it could be done via sign-and trade, and he'd probably have to force his way out. And how would that make Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving feel? Probably not great. But with James Harden, the player, the signs of decline do concern me a little bit. He's in his early 30s. He doesn't have that level of explosion. He's dealt with some injuries the last couple of years, and we know that he really hasn't put an emphasis on coming into NBA training camp in the most elite of shape. So that does concern me as he ages, and it's never like he's been the most explosive, athletic, twitchy player. He's kind of had to rely on him having that crafty game and at times getting calls. And in the playoffs, you don't always get those calls. And how does that game age in addition to James Harden aging? Now, without Kevin Durant, James Harden has once again become the number one option for the Brooklyn Nets. And look, you look at the numbers, and he's having a pretty solid year. 23 points per game, 10 dimes, around 8 rebounds per game. He's shooting less than 42%, which ain't great. 34% from beyond the arc. Those numbers certainly down, but he did get off to a rocky start this year. But you pair him up with Joel Embiid, and you're like, man, this two-man game would certainly be magical. And with the way that Embiid is playing, with the way that he's developing as he continues to grow, look, he didn't start playing basketball until he was a teenager. Does that take some of the pressure off of James Harden? This year, Embiid has just been phenomenal. 29 points per game. He's averaging a double-double, more than a steal and a block per night. Defensively, offensively, Embiid has been in his bag. And he's even bringing the ball up. He's hitting Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant fadeaways. He's shaking down cats off the dribble. What Embiid is doing is truly special. And you match that up with James Harden, both these guys can really handle the rock. Both these guys can spot up and complement one another very well on the offensive end of the floor. And look, while I have some concerns about how James Harden ages, does it really matter what happens 5 years down the road if over the next couple of years, let's say 1, 2, 3 years, you're competing for NBA championships and you make a run at the Larry O.B.? In that case, you win a championship, and it doesn't matter if you sign Harden to that 5-year contract and on the back half of it, he ain't that great. Before we get out of here, Sixers, 6th in the Eastern Conference right now, so we record this to kick off the week on Monday. Where do you think they lie among the teams in the Eastern Conference? Fill in the blank once more. Sixers are the blank best team in the East. You let me know. Thanks for watching today's show. Really had a blast growing this channel so far as a guy who grew up in the Philadelphia area. Appreciate all the support. Appreciate all of you for watching. And if you haven't subscribed, do so right now.